This is day 16 of Advent of Cyber 2024, and this challenge is called the Wareville's Key Vault. Agree 3 sizes that day. The learning objectives for this challenge are to learn about Azure, what it is and why it is used, learn about Azure services like Azure Key Vault and Microsoft Entra ID, and learn how to interact with an Azure tenant using Azure Cloud Shell. So, intro to Azure. Before diving into the glitches idea of the attacker's path, let's introduce some of the key concepts that will be covered in the process. We're going to start by introducing Azure. To do that, let's consider why McSkitty is using Azure in the first place. It all started when McSkitty's role as the cyber security expert of Wareville really started to take off. Before she knew it, McSkitty was in very high demand and needed to create all kinds of resources to help her organize her duty. These included a web application to handle appointment making, multiple machines running for investigations, and more machines running for evidence storing and analysis. McSkitty hosted and managed all of these machines herself, that is, on premises. This initially wasn't a massive issue because, after all, she wasn't a corporation, but just helping the citizens of Wareville with cybersecurity matters. However, as time went on, McSkitty ran into issues during peak times when she would receive many requests for help, and therefore needed to process more evidence. All of this increased demand meant McSkitty had to scale up her resources to handle the load. To put a long story short, this was a lot of hassle for McSkitty. She wished there was a way for someone to handle her infrastructure on her behalf, especially when scaling her resources up during peak times and down when they resumed. That's when Azure came to the rescue. Azure is a cloud service provider, and CSPs, including Google Cloud and AWS, provide computing resources such as computing power on demand in a highly scalable fashion. In other words, McSkitty could instead have Azure manage her underlying infrastructure, scaling it in times of increased demand and decreasing it once traffic resumed to normal levels. The best bit, McSkitty only has to pay for what she uses. Gone were the days of buying physical infrastructure to handle increased loads, only for that infrastructure to go unused the majority of the time. Azure, and cloud adoption in general, boasts many benefits beyond cost optimization. Azure also gave McSkitty access to lots of cloud services ranging from identity management to data ingestion. Quite frankly, there are more services than can be abbreviated in a sentence, as at the time of writing, there are over 200. These services can be used to build, deploy, and manage McSkitty's current infrastructure, as well as give her the options to upgrade or build new applications in the future given the range of services available. A couple of Azure services will come up during the glitches attack path. Let's take a look at them now. Azure Key Vault. Azure Key Vault is an Azure service that allows users to securely store and access secrets. These secrets can be anything from API keys, certificates, passwords, cryptographic keys, and more. Essentially, anything you want to keep safe, away from the eyes of others, and easily configure and restrict access to is what you want to store in an Azure Key Vault. The secrets are stored in vaults, which are created by vault owners. Vault owners have full access and control over the vault, including the ability to enable auditing so a record is kept of who accessed what secrets and grant permissions for other users to access the vault, known as vault consumers. McSkitty uses this service to store secrets related to evidence and has been entrusted to store some of Wareville's town secrets here. Microsoft Entra ID. McSkitty also needed a way to grant users access to her system and be able to secure and organize the access easily, so a Wareville town member could easily access or update their secret. Microsoft Entra, formerly known as Azure Active Directory, is Azure's solution. Entra ID is an identity and access management service. In short, it has the information needed to assess whether a user application can access X resource. In the case of the Wareville town members, they made an Entra ID account, and McSkitty assigned the appropriate permissions to this account. With that covered, let's see what the glitch has come up with. Assumed breach scenario. Knowing that a potential breach had happened, McSkitty decided to conduct an assumed breach testing with the Azure tenant. The assumed breach scenario is a type of penetration testing setup in which an initial access or foothold is provided, mimicking the scenario in which an attacker has already established its access inside the internal network. In this setup, the mindset is to assess how far an attacker can go once they get inside your network, including all possible attack paths that could branch out from the defined starting point of intrusion. So connecting to it, there is a direct link available. Is that this? Do we join lab and open lab? Okay, so that opens up a new page into Azure and credentials. So I assume we grab this username right there, do next, and then grab this password, do next, and action required next. Maybe I should have done ask later, so I could have skipped that, but let's see. This is here. Yep, I should have done ask later. Okay, so maybe I can go back and restart the sign in. Ask later. There we go. So we are now on the Azure portal. If that pops up, we do cancel, get rid of all those little pop-ups, and so click on the settings, get rid of this. We then go to language, region, and change it to what we want. I'm going to change this to Australia for myself. Apply. Okay. So, Azure Cloud Shell. Azure Cloud Shell is a browser-based command line interface that provides developers and IT professionals a convenient and powerful way to manage Azure resources. It integrates both Bash and PowerShell environments, allowing users to execute scripts, manage Azure services, and run commands directly from their browser without needing local installation. Cloud Shell has built-in tools and pre-configured environments, including Azure CLI, Azure PowerShell, and popular development tools, making it an efficient solution for cloud management and automation tasks. So Azure CLI is a command line tool for managing and configuring Azure resources. The glitch relied heavily on this tool while reviewing the Wareville tenant, so let's use the same one while walking through the Azure attack path. So we go back to Azure, and on the top right here, let me zoom in a bit. We then go to the little console icon there, which opens up the console right there. So once it loads up, we'll select Bash for that, what we'll use. No storage action required, and choose AZ subs AOC. So we've got that, AZ subs AOC, and apply. And we're loading up the Cloud Shell. So at this point, we're ready to execute Azure CLI commands in the Azure Cloud Shell. Note that all the following commands are to be executed in the Azure Cloud Shell. So we could do AZ AD signed in user show. So assume AZ is the command line tool for Azure, then the service AD, or I guess Active Directory, and assume this for Entra, as it's now called, and then signed in user showed. So if we do that, we can drag this to expand a bit more, and we can see that our user is signed in. Going down the Azure rabbit hole, when the glitch got hold of an initial account in Wareville's Azure tenant, he had no idea what was inside. So he decided to enumerate first the existing users and groups within the tenant. Enter ID enumeration. So using the current account, let's start by listing all the users in the tenant. So we can grab the command AZ AD user and then list. So while that's running, I'll carry on. The Azure CLI typically uses the following command syntax: AZ group, subgroup, action, optional parameters. So given this, the command above can be broken down into AD, which is Azure AD, or as it's now known, Entra ID, target group user, which is the Azure AD users, and an action list. To see the available commands, you can execute AZ-H for help, or AZ group-H for help. So after executing the command, you might have been overwhelmed with the number of accounts listed. For a better view, let's follow McSkitty's suggestion to only look for the counts prepended with WV user dash. According to her, these accounts are more interesting than the other ones. So to do this, we'd add the filter for starts with WV user and display name. So filter the user list based on display names which start with WV user dash. So has that finished loading? It has. We've got a large list of users in here. So we'll now grab this command and paste it into here. And we've got a smaller list of users. So we can see McSkitty, Mere Malware, Hardware, Freeware. It's a much smaller list. So when the glitch saw this one, you may have observed an unusual parameter was set to a specific account in the output. One of the users, backupware, has its password stored in one of the fields. So let's take a look at that and see that before. So here, interesting office location right there, recover secrets. When the glitch saw this one, he immediately thought it could be the first step taken by the intruder to gain further access inside the tenant. However, he decided to continue the initial reconnaissance of users and groups. Now let's continue by listing the groups. Well, before we do this, there's no doubt that this is going to be an answer to one of the questions, so we may as well answer it now. So let's go down to the bottom. What is the password for backupware that was leaked? Recover secrets. And that was correct, so now let's return back. So we'll continue by listing the groups. So Azure Active Directory group list, and this appears to be one group. The group for recovering Wareville secrets, secret recovery group. Yep. So may observed we just changed the previous command from AZAD user to AZAD group. Given the output, it can be seen that a group named secret recovery group exists. This is kind of an interesting group because of the description. So let's follow the white rabbit and list the members of the groups. So AZAD group member list, and for that group. So we're listing the members of the group based on the group secret recovery group. And in this group is the backupware account. So given the previous output, looks like everything makes a little sense now. All of the previous commands seem to point to the backupware account. Since we have seen a potential set of credentials, let's jump to another user by clearing the current Azure CLI account session and logging in with the new account. But before we do that, the next question is, what is the group ID of the secret recovery group? So if we go back to the group here, you need to find the ID field, which is this. We will copy that and paste it here. We may as well answer it now, so we don't have to go back to it, as it was asking us to clear things. I'm not sure if it was wanting us to, I wasn't sure if this would clear the CLI, so may as well do that now. So let's put AZ account clear. Okay, so I kept the CLI, that's good. Now we need to log in. So let's paste this in, but we first need to change the email. So let's grab the email that's here, paste it into there, and then in the password field, you can go to where the password was and paste it there. So I need to log into it, and we are now logged in. So Azure role assignments. Since the backupware account belongs to an interesting group, the glitch's first hunch is to see whether sensitive or privileged roles are assigned to the group. And his thought was, it doesn't make sense to name it like this if it can't do anything, right, McSkitty? But before checking the assigned roles, let's have a quick run through of Azure role assignments. Azure role assignments define the resources that each user or group can access. When a new user is created via Entra ID, it cannot access any resource by default due to a lack of role. To grant access, an administrator must assign a role to let users view or manage a specific resource. The privilege level configured in a role ranges from read-only to full control. Additionally, group members can't inherit a role when assigned to a group. So returning to the Azure enumeration, let's see if a role is assigned to the secret recovery group. We'll use the -all option to list all roles within the Azure subscription, and we will be using the signee option with the group's ID to render only the ones related to our target group. So we are going to copy this command and paste it in, but we need to fill in the group ID ourselves. So that is this one. So copy that and replace where it says to replace it with the ID of the group. So role definite key vault reader and then key vault secrets user. Note, you may retrieve the group ID from the command executed previously. We already did that. The output seems slightly overwhelming, so let's break it down. It can be seen that there are two entries in the output, which means two roles are assigned to the group. Based on the role definition name field, the two roles are key vault reader and key vault secrets user. Both entries have the same scope value, pointing to a Microsoft Key Vault resource, specifically on the Wareville Secrets Vault. Here's the definition of the roles based on the Microsoft documentation. So Key Vault Reader, read metadata of key vaults and its certificates, keys and secrets. This role allows you to read metadata of key vaults and its certificates, keys and secrets. Cannot read sensitive values such as secret contents or key material. Key Vaults Secrets User, read secrets contents. Only works for key vaults that use the Azure role-based access control permission model. This special role allows you to read the contents of a Key Vault secret. So after seeing both of these roles, McSkitty immediately realized everything. This configuration allowed the attacker to access the sensitive data they were protecting. Now that she knew this, she asked the glitch to confirm her assumption. So as the backupware user, we can do AZ Key Vault list, and we see we have access to Wareville secrets in the resource group RG AOC AKV and located in East United States. So now that we know what secrets we have access to, we can list the secrets in this key vault. So within this key vault we have the name AOC 2024. It was created 14th of October. So next thing to do would be to read it. So we paste in this command and we need to add the name, assume it's the AOC 2024, So we have the name AOC 2024 and the value where is my mind 1999. So that will definitely be an answer to a question. So let's copy that and paste it below. Well, what are the contents of the secret stored in the vault? That is where's my mind 1999. The name of the vault secret was AOC 2024. So that is all the questions answered, but there was a little more, so we should read it. Bingo, the glitch exclaimed as he saw the output above. McSkitty had confirmed her nightmare that a regular user could escalate their way into the secrets of Wareville. With that, the glitch had helped McSkitty to find the attack path that had been taken to escalate a user's privileges, and a lot had been learned in the process. The only question that remained was who had initially carried out the attack in the first place. There was a very limited set of wares who had access to this tenant, and with this user visibility, and with that set of permissions, only town officials who perform governance validation on the tenant to ensure all the town's secrets are being stored securely. The focus then turns to the motive. The only thing accessed was an access key stored in the key vault, which grants access to an evidence file stored elsewhere. The evidence in this file was in relation to recent cyber events this month in Wareville. We have to keep our eyes peeled in the following days to get to the bottom of this. So that is day 16 of Advent of Cyber 2024 completed. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe.